Okay, here we go. Well, Jan, I just wanted to start off by saying I'm a big fan of yours, and I love the album Mixtape. Uh, I wanted to because I'm planning on going to see you on this tour because it's just I've been listening to the album nonstop of
Good.
it, and I wanted to ask you, why now? Was there any particular reason as to do the '90s now?
Well, I have to give my record company a lot of credit. So when I started working on this, I'm going to say 2.5 years ago, just for something to do, I had just finished up doing a television show called The Jan Show with CTV. I had also just had 18 months ago had my first novel come out. So with all that stuff going on, I had written 6 or 7 original tunes, but nothing really made sense to start working on an original record. And I honestly didn't feel very motivated to be writing music on that time. I felt kind of creatively a little, my tank wasn't full. So, but I was so up for recording and finding great songs. And the record company, as I was saying, just said, I know that you're kind of doing 70s stuff and 80s stuff and you're sort of meandering all over all these decades. How do you feel about, you know, putting your focus mostly on 90s music? And I mean, I was very open to it. I sort of hummed and hawed. There was some things that we had already done that didn't end up on this record, which is kind of serendipitous, to be honest. And my producer, Russ Broom, and I just started going through stuff, and there was so much great music, so many artists that went on to be mainstay staples in every home globally. Like there was huge people and bands that came out of the late 80s and the 90s. So, we had to comb through so many songs, but it came down to just finding stuff that really affected me. Like Chris Isaac, for instance, I toured with him in the mid 90s. He was out on the strength of Wicked Game, and I watched him every night from the side stage put on a mirrored ball suit and go out and play Wicked Game to, 15,000 screaming women. And that song always stuck with me. So I thought I'd love to do a version of that. And I'm certainly not the first person that's recorded Wicked Game again, but things like that, little snippets of my history that wove themselves around these songs.
And for you, what was it like interpreting other people's work? Was it difficult for you at all to make the songs your own? Because you did such a good job on that. Like it sounds like Jann Arden, but it's other
Yeah,
songs.
I think it was very tentative. That's a good question. I felt very observed. I thought, oh my God, what if Sia hears this? What if Seal hears this? What if Everything But the Girl hears this? What if Desiree hears this? What if Joan Osborne hears this? So I was always kind of in the back of my mind, a little bit conscious about their opinions. But I also knew in my heart that I was doing my absolute best to paint them and put them in the highest regard, to put them on a pedestal, and to do the very best that I could do to showcase what a great song it was, how great the lyric was, how great the melody was. And so I think I'd be pretty comfortable if you were to gather all these artists into a room with maybe not Simon and Garfunkel. Let's not tell them. Let's not tell them about the boxer. But although Kyle McCurney did such a great job singing that with me, he was amazing. Yeah, but it feels good. I feel confident about it. I didn't doubt myself a lot. And a great song is a great song is a great song.
And for you, when you were choosing these, you mentioned about how there was some connections to them. Did any of the meanings behind the songs change to you as you were
Yeah,
recording them?
really, really great observation, Ryan. Yeah, they did. For one thing, I don't know about you, but going through these songs, I'm like, oh my God, I had no idea that's what the lyric was. Like there was things that I would be singing in the car and the Seal song Crazy comes to mind because I was always singing something completely different. And then when I actually started combing through the internet and trying to find the actual official lyrics, I was like, "Oh my God, that's what he's saying." Um, Everything But the Girl, the song that I cut called Missing. I didn't know half of those songs. I think Tracy, the lead singer, it's a duo, and Tracy is the main singer. I thought, she has a really interesting vocal sound, a vocal style. The sound that comes out of her mouth is very round and it's very heady and it's intoxicating. It's a beautiful voice, but she's not always easy to understand. So when I sang that song, that was also teeming with surprises of like, oh, that's what she said. So that happened on a regular basis recording this record.
And for you, because you're you started really your career recording in the 90s. It started and that was when you like blew up and became really successful at that time. When you look back on the 90s, how have you changed as an artist?
Oh gosh, I think time is just so relentless. And as you gather more information, and as you become wiser, and as you get more settled into who you are, what you like, what your ethical code is, what your politics are, who your partners are, your friends, you just morph drastically into a different version of yourself. Maybe not all people do this. Some people would say to themselves that they were the same from the time they were 17 to the time they lower themselves into the ground. I am not that person because I always crave knowledge. I always want to challenge myself. I always want to do things that are difficult. And I think I'm much more trustworthy. I think I'm more reliable. I think I sing better now than I did 30 years ago. And I don't know how long that will last, but I just know my voice, excuse me, very well. And I don't drink and I eat really well and I get lots of sleep and I just look after myself. But I'm a person I don't have much doubt in my life, so I don't question my decision making, which is a pretty great way to make your way through the world.
Yeah. And for you, when you're gonna go on tour, is the plan to do any other 90s songs that aren't on this album, or are you gonna mix in your own stuff? And like what's the plan?
You hit it. You nailed it, Ryan. I'm going to do my 90s stuff. So I'll be working off three or four albums I think I had come out in the 90s. Three maybe. And the mixtape and the 90s stuff that I did. So I think it's Time for Mercy, Living Under June, and the Happy record were all kind of pushing to the late 90s. So that's what our focus is. But it's a really retro show, um, from everything what the band is wearing. I change clothes about four times, which is really fun. There's a lot of rhinestones. And I think the lighting's going to be really interesting. My road manager, Chris Brunton, has spent a lot of time designing the production and making sure that people come and sit down for 2 hours and just go to the 90s. They're just going to be in the 90s. So I encourage big hair. Um, you know, get your fluorescent clothes out. Was that the 90s? You wouldn't remember. When were you born? I need to know this, Ryan.
2004. So
2004. Okay. Well, that's a good decade, man. And what do you guys call yourselves?
um like our generation?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Gen.
Gen Z. Yeah.
You guys are the Gen Zs. Okay. That's cool. I don't know what I am. I never really know. I think I'm a boomer. I mean, I'm just gonna say it. You're a Gen Z and I'm a boomer. But look at us. Look at how well we're getting along.
Yeah. For you, I know that a lot of artists, when they have a new record out and they have a bunch of songs on it that they're going to perform for this audience, and they already have a catalog like yours with lots of hits in it, there's a bit of pressure doing those songs that people don't know. But this time you're doing songs that are new to you, but they're songs that people are familiar with. Does
Yeah.
that kind of change how you're going to design the set list? Because, people know Wicked Game.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was a very deliberate. When I did the cover song, I thought I'm not going to do obscure 90s stuff. I'm not going to do album cuts from Nirvana that weren't the mainstream hits. I'm not going to do a Sia song that never saw the light of day on radio. I'm going to go after monster songs that had wide coverage, international play, and that were basically globally known. So when I go out there and do these songs, as much as they're like new, fresh takes on them, people are going to be so nostalgic. I'm looking forward to them being able to singing along and feeling like, oh God, I remember exactly where I was when I heard this song for the first time. Or I know what I felt like, or I know what boyfriend or girlfriend I had. I know what car I was driving. I had that shit box from blah 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 that I bought out of, it's all those memories. Nostalgia is a really comforting thing a lot of times. And, even you guys, you Gen Zers, I know you're listening to 90s music.
Definitely, yeah. Well, because when I
Like,
was listening to the album, I was already familiar. There was a couple on there that I didn't know, but the majority, yeah,
yeah, you guys know that, these songs are such a mainstay. And I was counting on that. I didn't want to make my life more difficult. I wanted to do something that just resonated and that people could hang their hearts on for that moment and just think of an easier time in their lives. And I think that's what music does. It's a balm for the soul. It's, whether you're sitting alone in your basement trying to mend a broken heart, or if you're in a minivan with your kids, playing stuff, from wherever, it makes you feel better. It makes you feel like you can make it through. And there's a definite chemical thing that happens within your body when it's serotonin, it's all those great hormones. It's comforting. And sound is a powerful, powerful tool. I mean, the stuff that they're doing with sound now, the stuff they're doing with mixes, even with music, how they're completely rethinking how we listen to music at the movies. It started off years and years ago with Dolby and just how they were compressing music. And now you have these 15 speaker systems that literally separate out as tambourine that feels like it's being played through the top of your head. Like when you're sitting, like Atmos sound, there's a lot of files that you can get off of Spotify or Apple or Pandora or Amazon, wherever you're listening to your music. It's, ATMOS and it's Atmos. Um, and you will if you have your headphones on, you feel like the way they've spatially moved sound waves, it will be tapping your back or touching your elbow or the tip of your right ear or your eyebrow. It's very tactile music. And they're starting to do that in live situations as well. They're using technology that as you're sitting in your seat, you're feeling, not only are you having an emotional response, but now you're having a visceral physical response to listening to music. So the innovations continue to explode all the time. um, they're thinking about using sound in weaponry, like military weaponry. That sound, if you've ever stood in front of an old bass speaker from 1970 in your grandmother's basement, or your uncle or whatever, that if you stand in front of an old bass bin, this push, you will feel a physical push. It'll move your hair, it'll move your shirt standing in front of it. Well, of course, military people are trying to find a way to hurt people with sound and use it as a to weaponize it. So it's a really interesting human thing that has changed, enhanced our lives, lifted our lives, given us a way to express our anger and our frustrations and unrequited love or our excitement. I mean, there's nothing that equals dancing like in a field with your friends and having a fire going and just feeling like hopeful. So I'm very proud that I've made my life dealing with sound that makes people feel better.
I couldn't agree more about sound. It's just so fascinating, and I think really the true universal language, is sound.
Mm.
Really understand things from it. But I just want to close off with, for you, what does it mean for you to be an artist, to be able to share your gifts and your stories and your interpretations with other people and affect them? What does that mean to you?
Probably been the single most important thing in my life. is to be a storyteller, is to be a creative person. And I do a lot of different things. Music is obviously, it is the bedrock of my pyramid. So it all started there when I was very young. I was 10 or 11 years old, living in a rural area, grabbed my mom's guitar, started making up songs, and just slowly made my way through my 20s and my 30s and my 40s. And but it's my politics. There's nothing more powerful, and I think Margaret Mead said this, than just a small group of community people who are dedicated to making change. I'm paraphrasing here. And it is about musicians, artists. Sometimes we seem small, but we're mighty. And, musicians and artists and actors, they have a reach. Even in this last election, say what you will. I was very much, very vocal about who and how I wanted to see the country move forward and what I thought was right for us. And that was so important to me. I wouldn't have had the reach that I had it not been for my musical career or my podcast or the work I've done in television or the literature that I've produced over the last 20 years. And, I'm not exceptional, Ryan, at any of them. And I talk about this a lot. I'm not the greatest singer. I'm not the greatest writer. I'm not the greatest composer. You know, I, but I'm dedicated to expressing my opinion. And I tell this to young people all the time. Being yourself is, you can monetize that. And we see it on social media all the time. We see it on TikTok. We see it on, all these social platforms that they're paying people now to be themselves, to express their opinions, do their makeup tutorials, bake, cook, make shirts, dance, do hair, um, make comedy. And that's been explosive for me. That's probably one of the most positive things that I've seen. As we know, it can be a very volatile place where it can be disparaging and a lot of hate talk. But then there's the army of creators, there's the army of artists, people your age, younger people, seniors in senior homes, having a fucking TikTok page that they're making people die laughing with their opinions about getting older. Or it is an extraordinary life to be a creative person. I'm forever in debt to the younger version of me that made the decision to keep going in face of a lot of rejection and a lot of doubt and a lot of people telling me no. I'm grateful to the younger version of me that was tenacious and forthright and steadfast and just went, no, I'm going to keep going because this is what I do. And it's a very human thing to do as well. Thank God for the artists. Thank God for the creators. We wouldn't have Netflix. We wouldn't have clothes on our back. We wouldn't be listening to radios. We wouldn't have the things, people that invent things, scientists, they're creators. They're making stuff out of nothing. So that was a very long answer, but I'm very grateful. And I wouldn't have done it. I wouldn't change a thing.
Well, thank you. I don't want to go too much more over, but that was just great. A perfect way to
Thank
close, I
you.
think, on it.
Well,
Um,
you've been amazing. And thanks for doing this, Ryan. And I wish you all the grace and the luck and you know, the steadfastness to keep going and keep creating and keep being you. Yes, great questions. You're very charismatic, and it's been lovely
you
talking
too.
to
Thank
you.
you, Jan, and good luck with the tour and whatever you're going to be doing next after that.
It's a program up on all our socials.
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll see you soon,
Bye.
Ryan.